Hello students, as I promised in the last video, I am going to start a series to cover all the new chapters which have been added in the latest edition, that is the 7th edition of M. Lakshmikant Indian Polity. Whether or not you should buy this book, I have already made a video on that. If you have not seen that video, please go watch that video. From this class onwards, we will be starting with all those new chapters, and the first chapter which I'm going to start with will be the important doctrines of constitutional interpretation. This is one of the 12 new chapters which have been added in the 7th edition of Lakshmikant. Before I start with this concept, I request you all to please take notes from the video. So wherever you need, pause the video, take down the notes, because otherwise this class will not be very helpful. Now, in this chapter, various doctrines which have been used by our Honorable Supreme Court while interpreting our Constitution in different cases have been discussed. We will start with the first doctrine, and that is doctrine of severability. Doctrine of severability. Now, I am sure you guys understand that in India we have a written constitution, and we also have the concept of supremacy of constitution, unlike say British system which is based on the sovereignty or supremacy of the parliament. So the Indian system, American system are based on supremacy of the constitution. So if we say that we have a written constitution, let's say we have a written constitution of India, and we claim that it is supreme law in the country, that means that all the other laws made in the country, or even the policies, orders, rules, all these laws have to be as per the Constitution of India. Only then it would be right to claim that Constitution is supreme in our country. So let us say we have any law, any policy, any rule, this has to be as per the Constitution. If not, then that law can be declared as null and void. This law can be declared as null and void. Now, this I am sure you have read in your GS classes, that the power to declare a law as null and void is called as the power of judicial review. Power of judicial review. And this power is available to our Supreme Court and all the high courts in the country, but not to the subordinate courts. So subordinate courts cannot declare a law or a policy as null and void or as unconstitutional. This also I am sure you guys know that the power of judicial review given to the courts is implicit in our Constitution. It has not been given explicitly, except in context of fundamental rights, it is given in Article 13. We will come to it in a short while. Now coming back to the main topic, that what is this doctrine of severability? So whenever Supreme Court or high courts are examining the constitutionality of any law made either by the parliament or by state legislature, it is possible that not the entire law, but a part of that law or certain sections of that law only are violative or are in contravention of the Constitution. So while declaring that particular part of the law or those sections of the law as null and void, as unconstitutional, what will happen to rest of the law? So the doctrine of severability, it says that while declaring certain sections of the law as unconstitutional, those sections of the law which are not unconstitutional or which are as per the provisions of Constitution, they will remain in force. So let's say if I make this, let us say via a pictorial representation, imagine if this is a law, and I am comparing it with the Constitution of India. So what is possible? That certain parts of this law, It can be, let us say, few sections, or it can be a subsection within a section. If, let us say, these parts of the law are violating the constitution, then only these parts are declared as null and void by the judiciary. The rest of the part becomes operational, it becomes operative, it remains good. This concept is called as the concept or the doctrine of severability. Now the question which arises is that what is the basis of this law, or what is the basis of this concept, basis of this doctrine or this concept? Is it given anywhere in the constitution? So the basis or the legitimacy of this concept I can derive from two sources in the Constitution of India, and they are Article 13 Clause 1 and Article 13 Clause 2. Article 13 Clause 1 talks about the validity of the pre-constitutional laws. Pre-constitutional laws. That means those laws which came into force before our constitution commenced or it became operational. That means 26th of January 1950. So Article 13 Clause 1 says that those laws which came into force before the commencement of constitution, if these laws violate part 3rd, they violate part 3rd, then to the extent of contravention, to the extent of contravention of fundamental rights, this law will be null and void. Now, what is the meaning of this phrase, to the extent of contravention? To the extent of contravention means the degree to which. That means those parts of the law, those sections of the law which are violative of the constitution, to that extent, those parts will not be operational, they will be void. Similarly, Article 13 Clause 2 talks about post-constitutional laws. That means those laws which have been enacted by either the parliament or state legislatures after our constitution has come into force. Now, first of all, Article 13 Clause 2 says that the state shall not make any law which takes away, any law which takes away or it abridges. Abridges means it curtails, it restricts, it limits. So any such law state cannot make. But if such a law is made by the state, then again, to the extent it contravenes part 3rd fundamental rights, to that extent that law shall be null and void. So I hope you understand now the doctrine of severability. And if somebody asks you, or UPSC asks you, that what is the basis, how can we say that India has also adopted this doctrine? We can say the basis is Article 13 Clause 1 and Article 13 Clause 2. Now coming to certain other propositions, or you can say rules regarding the doctrine of severability. The first rule is that when any law is reviewed by judiciary, it can be any law. Let us say Supreme Court is examining, let us say, for example, the constitutionality of a Citizenship Amendment Act 2019, on which you all know we had so much of protests. So whether CAA is violative of constitution or not, or maybe certain parts of the law are only violative of constitution. So in finding out that which parts, which sections of the law violate constitution, Supreme Court looks at the intent of legislature. Intent of legislature. That means with what intent? Intent means mansha, right? With what intentions or what objectives the parliament has made that law. That will help judiciary to find out, to decide that which parts of the law or maybe the entire law is constitutionally invalid. The second proposition of this doctrine is that imagine that there is a law, let us say there is a law, and this law has a part, let's say this is a subpart of the law. Now this, let us say, subpart of the law is constitutionally invalid, or we can say it deserves to be declared as void, and rest of the law is good law, is constitutional. But what if this part of the law which is unconstitutional is so closely, so inextricably linked to the rest of the law that you cannot separate them? Then judiciary would be helpless. So the invalid part and the valid part of the law, if they are so closely connected that they are not distinct, they are not clearly identifiable, they are not separable, there is no clear dichotomy between them, then judiciary will be helpless. And then what judiciary will do? It will declare the entire law as unconstitutional, null and void. However, if this invalid part of the law can be easily separated, it is distinct, it is very dichotomous with the rest of the law, then this part of the law only, and not the entire law, only this part of the law would be declared as invalid. तो देखना यह है कि इनवैलिड और वैलिड पार्ट ऑफ लॉ को आप आराम से अलग कर सकते हो. अगर आराम से अलग कर सकते हो तो सिर्फ इनवैलिड पार्ट को इनवैलिड डिक्लेयर किया जाएगा. लेकिन अगर आप आराम से अलग नहीं कर सकते हो तो फिर कोई चॉइस नहीं है, राइट? ओके. थर्ड, तो मान लीजिए कि ये एक लॉ है विच इज़ बीइंग एग्जामिन्ड बाय द जुडिशरी, राइट? एंड लेट अस से दिस पार्ट ऑफ द लॉ अगेन टेक इज इनवैलिड. अब मान लो ये पार्ट थोड़ा और बड़ा हो, तो मान लीजिए ये पूरा लॉ इनवैलिड है, अनकॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल है, और जो बाकी बच गया रिमेनिंग सेक्शंस ऑफ द लॉ, सो लेट्स से दीज सेक्शंस ऑफ द लॉ, रिमेनिंग सेक्शंस ऑफ द लॉ आर वैलिड, कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनली ओके. लेकिन अगर इन इनवैलिड पोर्शंस को लॉ में से बाहर निकाल दिया जाए बाय डिक्लेयरिंग देम एज अनकॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल, तो मान लो इन पोर्शन को कोर्ट बोल दे कि भाई ये नहीं चलेंगे, दे आर वॉइड, तो जो बाकी लॉ बच गया, द रिमेनिंग लॉ इज सो ट्रंकेटेड और सो थिन कि वो अपने आप में उसका कोई सब्सटेंस नहीं है. अब उस लॉ में कुछ बचा नहीं. तो मान लो इफ लेट अस से इन द CAA 2019 if most of the law is unconstitutional and that part of law is declared as invalid, तो फिर CAA में कुछ बचेगा ही नहीं. तो फिर उस केस में पूरे ही लॉ को सुप्रीम कोर्ट को डिक्लेयर करना पड़ेगा एज नल एंड वॉइड. इसके बाद नेक्स्ट प्रपोजिशन जो है वो ये है कि मान लो अगर ये लॉ है और मान लीजिए इसके अंदर एक पार्ट है, कुछ सेक्शंस हैं, कुछ पार्ट है जो कि कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनली इनवैलिड है. तो मान लो अगर इस पार्ट को, इस लॉ को इनवैलिड डिक्लेयर कर दिया जाए तो जो रिमेनिंग पार्ट बचता है वो अपने आप में एनफोर्सेबल नहीं है. इट मीन्स विदाउट दिस पार्ट द रेस्ट ऑफ द लॉ, दिस पार्ट ऑफ द लॉ इज नॉट एनफोर्सेबल. इट कैन नॉट बी ब्रॉट इनटू ऑपरेशन, उसको लागू नहीं किया जा सकता. तो उस केस में द जुडिशरी इज हेल्पलेस. इट विल हैव टू डिक्लेयर द एंटायर लॉ एज नल एंड वॉइड, because otherwise it will become a kind of judicial legislation. Because you know that legislation is job and power of legislature. So if a law made by legislature cannot be brought into operation because of judiciary, then it amounts to kind of judicial legislation. It's as if judiciary is making laws in the country, right? And the last proposition of this doctrine is that while examining that whether a law is invalid, valid, which part of the law is invalid, Supreme Court says that I will consider the history of law. मैं लॉ की हिस्ट्री को भी देखूंगा. तो मान लीजिए CAA है 2019, तो उसकी हिस्ट्री इज लिंक्ड टू लेट अस से illegal immigration from East Pakistan and then Bangladesh. Its history is linked to 1985, Rajiv Gandhi agreement, with ASU, right, Assam Accord. Then its history is linked to NRC and Supreme Court's order to conduct the NRC. तो उसकी हिस्ट्री भी देखी जाएगी, ठीक है. उसके बाद उस लॉ का ऑब्जेक्ट देखा जाएगा. ऑब्जेक्ट मतलब ऑब्जेक्टिव क्या है. उसके बाद उस लॉ का प्रीएम्बल भी देखा जाएगा और उस लॉ का जो टाइटल है, इवन टाइटल भी मैटर करता है. तो इन सब चीज़ों की हेल्प से जुडिशरी डिसाइड्स कि वेदर द एंटायर लॉ और अ पार्ट ऑफ दैट लॉ इज़ कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनली इनवैलिड. ओके, अब कौन कौन से केसेस हम कह सकते हैं विच हैव हैपेंड इन विच सुप्रीम कोर्ट हैज़ यूज्ड दिस डॉक्ट्रिन. केसेस, तो ये केसेस कैन बी आस्क्ड इन प्रीलिम्स एग्जाम और इवन इन द मेन एग्जामिनेशन. If so far you are finding this video useful and I am able to clear this concept, please do share this video with your friends and also like the video, and do tell me in the comment section that whether such videos are helping you or not. Otherwise it's no point for me to invest my time, energy in making these classes. So do let me know in the comment section if these videos are of any help to you. Okay. तो जो पहला केस जिसमें सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने इस डॉक्ट्रिन को अप्लाई किया वो था A.K. गोपालन वर्सेस स्टेट ऑफ मद्रास 1950. Now in this case Supreme Court struck down section 14 of a law called as preventive detention law. Preventive Detention Law 1950 on the ground that it violates Article 22 of the Constitution of India. Article 22, I'm sure you all know, gives you certain rights in case you are arrested, or it aims to prevent the arbitrary detention and arrest of a person. Now while declaring section 14 as null and void, the rest of the law Supreme Court declared shall be valid. It shall remain in operation. तो अगेन सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने अप्लाई की डॉक्ट्रिन ऑफ सीवियरेबिलिटी, राइट. सेकेंड एग्जाम्पल जो हम दे सकते हैं वो है केहोटो होलोहन वर्सेस जाचिलू 1992. Now this is also popularly known as the defection case. Ab, I'm sure you all know that by 52nd Constitutional Amendment Act 1985, Parliament added a new schedule, 10th schedule in the Indian Constitution. और उस शेड्यूल में क्या ऐड किया? उसमें ऐड किया हमने एंटी डिफेक्शन लॉ. तो ये जो एंटी डिफेक्शन लॉ है इसको अब मैं डिटेल में डिस्कस नहीं कर सकता, अदरवाइज क्लास विल बिकम वेरी लेंदी. आई एम अज्यूमिंग यू ऑल ऑलरेडी नो एंटी डिफेक्शन लॉ. तो जो एंटी डिफेक्शन लॉ था 10th शेड्यूल में, इसमें आई एम श्योर यू नो दैट द पावर्स ऑफ डिस्क्वालिफिकेशन ऑफ एन MP ऑन ग्राउंड्स ऑफ डिफेक्शन आर विद द प्रिसाइडिंग ऑफिसर्स. इट मीन्स स्पीकर इन लोकसभा एंड विधान सभाज and chairman in the Rajya Sabha and Vidhan Parishads. तो ADL के पैरा 7 में ये लिखा गया कि एंटी डिफेक्शन लॉ के मामले में कोर्ट्स का इंटरफेरेंस नहीं हो सकता. कोर्ट्स विल हैव नो जुरिस्डिक्शन. इसका मतलब कि अगर स्पीकर ने किसी MP को डिस्क्वालीफाई कर दिया या चेयरमैन ने कर दिया तो वो फाइनल माना जाएगा, उसके ऊपर किसी कोर्ट का जुरिस्डिक्शन नहीं होगा. अब इसमें प्रॉब्लम क्या थी? कोर्ट ने क्या बोला इन केहोटो होलोहन केस? कोर्ट ने बोला कि भाई इफ़ यू आर अमेंडिंग द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन, जो कि एंटी डिफेक्शन लॉ को कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन को अमेंड करके एक शेड्यूल को ऐड करके उसको इंसर्ट किया गया, तो एंटी डिफेक्शन लॉ लाने के लिए संविधान तो अमेंड किया गया. दैट इज़ व्हाई आई टोल्ड यू वी हैड 52nd अमेंडमेंट, राइट. तो कोर्ट ने क्या बोला कि भाई आर्टिकल 368 of our constitution, it contains the procedure to amend the constitution. और आर्टिकल 368 क्लॉज 2 ये कहता है कि कुछ ऐसे मैटर्स हैं, there are certain matters in which if you want to amend the constitution, then you have to get the constitutional amendment bill ratified by at least half of the state legislatures. तो कुछ ऐसे मैटर्स गिवन हैं जिन मैटर्स में अगर आपको अमेंड करना है कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन को तो पार्लियामेंट तो अप्रूव करेगी ही करेगी बाय स्पेशल मेजॉरिटी, लेकिन हाफ ऑफ द स्टेट लेजिस्लेचर्स ऑल्सो हैव टू रेटिफाई दैट CAB. और इन मैटर्स में से एक मैटर कौन सा है? एक मैटर है jurisdiction of Supreme Court and High Courts. Jurisdiction of Supreme Court and High Courts. तो जब एंटी डिफेक्शन लॉ इनैक्ट किया गया और पैरा 7 में ये लिख दिया गया कि कोर्ट्स की जुरिस्डिक्शन नहीं होगी, तो इसका मतलब आप कोर्ट्स की जुरिस्डिक्शन के साथ छेड़छाड़ कर रहे हो, तो इसके लिए तो आपको स्टेट से रेटिफिकेशन लेना पड़ेगा, लेकिन वो आपने नहीं लिया, इसलिए पैरा 7 को डिक्लेयर किया गया बाय सुप्रीम कोर्ट एज नल एंड वॉइड. लेकिन पूरा का पूरा एंटी डिफेक्शन लॉ अभी भी फोर्स में है, लागू है, ये आप जानते हैं. So these were the cases, some cases in which Supreme Court has applied the doctrine of severability. I hope this concept is now clear. In the next video, I will cover the next doctrine called doctrine of waiver, right? Until then, keep studying. Thank you. Bye-bye.